What's up, family? This is Kristen Smallwood, and you're listening to the Thrive with Joy podcast, a special space I've created for us to come and reason together. Each week, I share life lessons and stories that challenge our perspective on how we're managing the relationships with ourselves, God, and others. I'm even inviting some special guests to help us unpack insights on how to experience lasting, harmonious bonds that abound in grace, forgiveness, and love. Let's get into it. What's up, family? Thank you for meeting me back in the room for another episode. Let me just start by celebrating anybody that is out here surviving this pollen season. Congratulations to you, because you are a unicorn, okay? You are the true MVP, the most valuable pollinator. I don't know how you're doing it, because the rest of us, we out here struggling. Like, this pollen has been triggering every allergy in my body. I am convinced that the pollen count is around 1,000 grains per cubic meter right now. Like, you can't even walk to your mailbox and back without needing to take another shower because you're covered in at least 2 layers of it. You're covered in it, your porch is covered in it, your house is turning yellow, and if you're not parked in the garage, you can't even see your car. It's hidden under at least 5 layers of it. Listen, the most popular place in your city right now is probably the car wash. They are making a killing this season. Do you hear me? And I don't know what's worse when it comes to your car. Having it covered in 5 layers of pollen or 5,000 dead bugs. I can't stand either one. But I really can't stand that bug situation, because the bugs, they do more than just attach themselves to your car. They literally fly into your car and die, leaving all of their body fluid stained on your vehicle to dissolve the paint and potentially cause rust and corrosion. It is the most ridiculous thing I have ever seen in my life. I have never understood why they do that. I remember driving back home from out of town one night, and I was riding through this wooded area, and it was like 15, 20 miles of nothing but trees. I was trying to hurry up and get through the area because it was dark and I was one of the only people on the road, and I had already passed one of those deer crossing signs. So I knew the potential for one of them to jump out of the woods and run in front of my car was high. So I was like, let me hurry up, get out of these woods before I wake up one of these deer and they decide they want to meet me today. So I'm flying. I don't even know what the speed limit is. And as I'm driving, I hear these little taps hitting my car. I'm like, what is that? I was like, oh, Lord. The deer are throwing stuff at me. They trying to get my attention. Let me hurry up and get home. So I speed up even more. All of a sudden, like raindrops, bugs, and insects start hitting my window one after another. I mean, flying smack dab into the window and just exploding. I was like, what is wrong with them? What kind of suicide mission are they on? One senseless death after another. So I turn on the wipers and start launching windshield wiper fluid at all this gook that is now obscuring my view through these woods, trying to clean it off. With every wipe, the window seems to be getting nastier and nastier. I just could not understand why those bugs were so determined to end their lives in such a vicious way. So you know me, when I get curious about something, I go digging for information because I needed to understand the logic behind why a bug or insect, who obviously has the ability to fly anywhere in the air and in my mind had the opportunity to fly above or around my car, would opt instead to fly directly into it. So here's what my research uncovered. When an insect or bug flies into a windshield or your car grill, it's not intentional, despite what I thought, right? It's usually a result of them reacting to light and movement. So they're attracted to light. Moths, beetles, even ants are examples of the types of insects that gravitate to anything that projects or reflects light, like your headlights or the reflection from your car windows, or even the chrome that's on your front grille or other parts of your car. In addition to that, Their brains are designed to interpret movement in specific ways, and they rely on visual cues to help them navigate. Like, have you ever struggled to catch a fly? Like, they could land a couple steps away from where you are and just sit there. And in your mind, you're thinking, oh, I'm about to get them. I'm about to get them. They don't even know they about to get swatted. So you sit real still because they're sitting still. And you're basically having a stare off with this fly. He trying to figure out when you gonna make a move. You trying to figure out when he gonna make a move. And both of y'all think you're smarter than the other one. So you wait for the perfect moment when you think he's distracted and you raise your hand to try and swat him real fast. But before you can even bring your hand back down, he's already flown away. That's because he was studying your visual cues so he could determine how and when he needed to move. Now, the challenge they run into when it comes to cars is that sometimes the car is moving too fast for them to interpret the movement and get out the way. Not only that, but as the car moves, it creates a flow of air around it. So if the insect has not created enough distance, for example, between itself and the car, as it passes through, it'll get sucked into that airflow and then it can't fly away. Here's the even bigger problem for them. They don't have the ability to perceive that this light that is causing them to want to draw closer is actually coming from a large glass object. All they see is the light. The windshield itself is invisible to them. So whether they're intentionally flying towards the light or have been unintentionally sucked into the car's airflow, it's not until their body hits that glass that they realize that they are in trouble. And by then, it's too late. Can you imagine that? You flying around minding your own business and you catch a glimpse of a light out of the corner of your eye. So you head in that direction hoping to find something amazing, some place where you can experience a new adventure, and then all of a sudden, bam! You went from living a bug's life to being bug splatter. How tragic is that? It reminds me of those old Windex commercials they used to show with the two birds that would pull pranks on the homeowners by waiting until the person cleaned all of their glass windows and doors with the Windex, and then the birds would do something to distract the homeowner so they would accidentally run into the glass. Y'all remember those commercials? The message that Windex was trying to sell was that their product provided such a streak-free clean that it made the windows and doors so clear that they appeared to be invisible. I used to look at those commercials the same way I looked at those bugs. Like, how did you not see that? How did you let that happen? Like, how did you allow yourself to lose control of your environment like that? How did you allow yourself to be blindsided by something that should have been obvious? Then I thought about it and I was like, oh my God. I have been the bug and the homeowner. I have experienced the exact same thing as them. Here's what I mean. So I was having a conversation with a friend of mine about needing a break. Like, I just wanted a couple days away from the noise and pressure of my everyday life so I could refuel and reset my thoughts. We have all had that need to take a break from adulting. I was telling her how sometimes just the pressure of responsibility can be so overwhelming. Sometimes you don't feel like making decisions and being accountable. You don't always want to do the responsible things. You don't always want to check in and communicate. Sometimes you just want to not show up and not tell anybody. Sometimes you just want to drop the ball on purpose. Not only drop it, but kick it, hide it, bust it, anything to keep you from having to deal with it. And all I wanted to do was avoid it all. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to consider it. I don't care about the consequences of not dealing with it in this moment. I just wanted to sit and be. I had all these things pulling at me, needing my attention, commanding my time, wrapping me up like a bug caught in the airflow of a car, being pushed towards an unknown reflection. And that's when I finally understood how those bugs felt. I had run smack dab into my own invisible wall called anxiety. And just like Bug Splatter, I was all over the place. At first, I didn't realize that is what it was. Like, my friend had to really help me think through it. When I think about anxiety, I immediately try to identify the physical signs that usually provide evidence that anxiety exists, right? Like panic attacks and racing heartbeat and that constant fear and worry that kind of happens. So, in my mind, those were the key signals to let you know that you may be experiencing some form of anxiety. But I'm now coming to realize that anxiety doesn't just show up in the form of physical reactions. And most time, the war against it is happening internally. Like, it's our body's natural response to stress. It's considered an invisible barrier because it's oftentimes hard to recognize that it may be what is driving your emotions and actions. Like I said, most of us can recognize the physical signs easily, but the emotional and mental barriers anxiety can create are often harder to detect. Things like avoiding interactions because you're nervous, afraid, or just uneasy about the possible outcomes. It can create this desire to want to shut down and isolate yourself from participating in everyday activities, or do the opposite and cause you to overreact and try to overcompensate for things that are outside of your control. It can cloud your judgment and make the simplest of decisions feel overwhelming, leaving you mentally scattered into 1,000 pieces like Bug Splatter. Have you ever experienced that? Like, maybe in social settings, you've been worried about something bad happening, even when there was no immediate threat. Just the thought of what could happen has you feeling uneasy and your emotions are all over the place. You're trying to connect with people, but you just become uncomfortable and you hit this invisible wall of insecurity and self doubt. Bam! Bug splatter. Or maybe you've been trying to relax, but your head is always flooded with an onslaught of never ending to do lists and responsibilities. Anytime you try to steal a moment for yourself to just sit and rest, you can't even enjoy it because you're distracted by all of the things in your life screaming at you, telling you it's time to get back to it. And all of a sudden, you run into the invisible wall of stress and overwhelm. Bam! Bug splatter. Maybe you've been trying to get your arms around your financial situation, right? And you can't quite figure out how you ended up in the hole you're currently sitting in. Everything is due, past due, or coming due, and you don't know what to do. You can't sleep at night and have now run into that invisible wall of overthinking. Or maybe you're just anxious about your future. Nothing seems organic, right? Every path you consider feels forced and unfulfilling. You want to take risks, but are too afraid of what you might lose if the risks don't pay off. You don't know what move to make, so you don't make any move. You're stagnant, frustrated, confused, and all of a sudden, you run into the invisible wall of indecisiveness and procrastination. Bam! Bug splatter. You feel like you need somebody to peel you off the floor and help put you back together again. Ask the bugs. Bug splatter is real. It's not just on our cars, it's in our lives. Sometimes we are the bug, but sometimes we are the windshield. We are running into other people, creating chaos in their lives because of our anxiety. They never see us coming. They have no idea what hit them. They're just going along about their lives, trying to be a friend, trying to be a partner, trying to be supportive. And then here we come out of nowhere with our misdirected energy, anger, and negativity, and we run right into them. Bam! Bug splatter. Now, not only are we a mess, but now we're making a mess. How do we regain control of it all? How do you pursue contentment when your life has been restricted by these uncontrolled thoughts and emotions? Listen, there is no simple answer. Anxiety is one of those super complex things that hits everybody differently. However, here are a couple methods I have been trying to help me pursue contentment when anxiety pops up in my life. The first thing I'm learning to do is protect my energy. When battling with anxiety, energy is considered to be a direct consequence of the body's fight or flight response. If every time you get anxious about something, you take extreme measures to fight against that thing or run away from it, you're going to find yourself in a constant state of exhaustion, both mentally and physically. I'm learning that I can't react to every anxious feeling and thought that I have. I'm trying to build a habit that when a thought crosses my mind that I know is going to trigger some level of anxiety for me, instead of stopping to dwell on that thought in that moment, I want to ask myself, does that thought deserve my energy right now? Is there anything that I can reasonably do about that feeling, that idea, or that task right now? Does it require more energy and time than I have the capacity to give right now? More importantly, is it even something that I should be worrying about? If it's not something that requires my immediate attention, I want to write it down, make a note, and schedule some other time to deal with it. This allows me the space to prepare my mind and energy to deal with those issues. Sometimes we have to protect our energy from our own habits of distraction so we can remain fueled for the battles that we are actually required to fight. If that thought does require my immediate attention, then I have to give it the energy it deserves. This may require me to eliminate other distractions and isolate myself so I can focus on getting resolution. For example, if I was experiencing anxiety about my future, for example, and I was at a point where I had to make a decision on what my next move would be, then it would be wise of me to dedicate some specific time to sit down, think through all of my options, write out some pros and cons, and then try to build a plan. The plan may end up changing, and I can't control the final outcome, but at least I can start putting my mind at ease knowing that I am pouring intentional energy and time into figuring it out. If I don't do that, the uncertainty around my future will run through my mind like a track star all day and all night and rob me of the energy I need to complete my basic daily task. If your anxiety is a result of trauma, protecting your energy is going to require you to know your triggers. Seek to understand those things that activate those traumatic emotions so you can be on guard for them and consider in advance how you want to respond. Some people avoid all social settings when they have experienced trauma at the hand of another person because it's an automatic trigger for their anxiety. For those who want to overcome that traumatic anxiety and engage in social activity without being triggered, protecting their energy may mean starting small with their social engagement, right? Maybe they start by hanging out with only one or two potential friends instead of a group, and monitor your triggers. See what parts of the interaction makes you comfortable and what makes you uncomfortable, right? This may help you better manage those triggers, preserve your energy, and allow you to experience a fuller life. In essence, my attempts to protect my energy is also teaching me to set boundaries for myself and focus on self-care. When it comes to setting boundaries, I have to ask myself, what gives me energy? Do more of that. What drains my energy? Do less of that. Now, I've established a baseline for the things I should say yes and no to. So when someone asks me to engage in something that I know will drain my energy, I can feel more comfortable saying no because I've considered the consequences of participating in that activity and hopefully reduce any anxiety tied to having to make that decision. Self-care is important because it is your opportunity to regain some of that energy you lose during stressful times. Everyone has their own self-care habits, whether it's exercising, taking naps, going on walks, having spa days, talking with friends, whatever your specific self-care kit looks like. During times of anxiety, we have to be intentional about tapping into those tools even more. The second thing I'm learning that really complements the idea about protecting my energy is to practice decluttering. That refers to both my physical and mental environment. Now, everyone knows that clutter is visually distracting. When I walk in a room and there's stuff everywhere, I immediately tense up. I feel even more pressure when the stuff is mine, and I know it's my responsibility to clear up that space. I can't focus, I can't be productive, I can't even think clearly, and my creativity is super low. Every item in that room represents a decision that has to be made. You have to ask yourself, what do I do with this? For every item in that room, even though that thing may already have a specific place where it belongs, you still have to decide whether or not you're going to put it there. We get overwhelmed by this mountain of decisions and struggle to even be comfortable in the space until things are cleaned up. But that feeling you get when you finally cleared out that closet, moved all of those things off of that dresser, threw away all of that trash, and put everything in its respective place is one of the greatest feelings ever. The same way we practice this physical exercise of paring down and organizing the tangible things, we have to do the same thing for those intangible aspects of our lives. I have found that one of the busiest places in the world is my mind, okay? At any given moment, I feel like I can have 1,000 different thoughts swirling around in my head, vying for my attention, trying to trigger me. Every random thought represents a decision that has to be made. I have to ask myself, what do I do with this? And unfortunately, you're not going to feel comfortable until you put all of those thoughts into their respective place, the same way you do when you physically declutter. This is how I felt when I was talking with my friend. I needed a break from decision making, but I also knew that the best way I could get that break was to declutter my mind. My decluttering process starts by prioritizing my thoughts based on need and impact. What decisions do I need to make in the next 30 days? And of those decisions, which ones will have the greatest impact on my life? The ones with the greatest impact get top priority and my best energy. When I take the time to write down those thoughts and give them purpose and meaning instead of just letting them roam around in my head, it lessens my tendency of bumping into this invisible wall of chaos that keeps me tossing and turning at night, interrupting my ability to get quality sleep. That is why journaling is such an effective tool. It gives your thoughts a place to be until you're ready to deal with them. And it releases you from any anxiety tied to managing each of those thoughts. Now, the last thing I'm learning about managing the splatter that anxiety can create in your life is to not wait until you are shattered into 1,000 pieces before you seek assistance. There is no shame in asking for help. We've all had to do it, and we will all have to do it again before we leave this earth. Sometimes your anxiety breakthrough is literally a prayer or telephone call away. Some friend, some family member, some licensed professional may have the information, the tools, or the insight you need to breathe again, to feel peace again, to live stress free. You have to engage them and be honest about where you are so they can support you in a real way. I told y'all in one of the episodes from season 1 that I was going to give therapy an honest try again. Go in without any preconceived expectations and really trust the process. I am very proud to say I kept my word. I linked up with a very skilled professional who is clearly experienced in dealing with people like myself. She understands that I can be an overthinker, a perfectionist, and I often overextend myself with no forethought for how it will impact me emotionally or physically. Having a neutral party help you work through those thoughts, fears, and concerns can help you learn anxiety management strategies. They can introduce you to mindfulness activities and breathing techniques that help you rein in those wandering thoughts so you can better respond to the issues at hand. That professional support, coupled with amazing family members, first class friends, and the Holy Ghost, have been key to peeling me off every dingy windshield I have ever landed on when anxiety and stress made me feel like I was falling apart. So the next time you're cleaning your car or you're driving along and a bug happens to land on your front windshield, don't be too bothered. They didn't mean it. Let it serve as a reminder that you are not on this journey alone, and even the bugs are trying to figure out how to avoid life's invisible barriers. The good news is, unlike them, we will not be overtaken by the winds of anxiety. No matter how scattered and broken you may feel right now, be comforted in the fact that God has incomparable restoration power. He can find every one of your pieces and put you back together again better than you were before. So be anxious for nothing. No invisible barrier stands a chance against our invisible God. As a part of my research, I inquired about what a bug could do to avoid running into a windshield. The results were simple: travel slower and fly above the car. I pray that as you navigate your journey with anxiety, that you receive the gift of peace that diminishes anxiety's impact and calms the storms that rage in your mind. May the only light that distracts you be the glow from the spoils of your victories. And may you receive the kind of freedom that allows you to fly above it all. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to share it with a friend. Post about it on social media, or feel free to leave a rating and review. And of course, follow or subscribe to the Thrive with Joy podcast on your favorite streaming platform, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts, to make sure you're notified when new episodes are available. All new episodes are released on Mondays. Until next time, family, I pray that God bless you to live in peace and thrive with joy.